So we're back, and this is the big one. We're now going to decide the winner, the best card in Smash Up. It's all come down to this. And once again, thank you to everyone who did the community polling. We got 52 responses this time, which is excellent. That's a really great rate of return. Unfortunately, it wasn't an even number, which meant that there's potential for some of the pairings to be tied. We'll see what happens with that in the future. Unfortunately, there's no David this time. He got the dates mixed up, and we can't really delay it by a week. So we've just jettisoned him from the panel, the talk show, as Lee likes to call it. So let's just get straight into it. So quarterfinal number 1, we've got Time Walk up against what lots of people had picked as the hot favourite to win the whole thing, Eliza.
Lots of people being the amount of times that you've done the survey, I take it, Mark.
51 times I've done it. Okay, who wants to kick us off? Luke, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who's watched this series to now knows a few things about me. One being I love cards like First Mate that stay on the board after base scores, and 2, I really don't rate Eliza. So if you've got this far and you've watched this many episodes and you think that I'm voting for anything other than Time Walk, then I think you need to watch them again, because I'm not an Eliza fan. I think she is. Oh God, I don't know if I'm just going to talk. You've had your spiel on Eliza. I don't think she affects the game enough to be on this list. Time Walk is great. It's an extra turn. I think the amount of times we've used the phrase, if you play an extra action every turn, it's 50% more game. This is 100% more game. If it's literally a fresh turn. And I don't know how you can beat that as an action card. It's very difficult. I think there's a couple in here still, but you're just not going to beat that. It's an easy walkover for Time Walk for me. Time walking over.
Cool. Ooh, moonwalking Time Walk. I couldn't agree more. Free action, a free turn. Give me the free turn over Eliza. I think it's about time her reign. I mean, I'd probably vote for Hair Doctor given the choice, but yeah, give me Time Walk over Eliza. Don't get me wrong. I have got a bit of a soft spot for her, and I have been shut down by her. But I used to play a lot of robots, and that makes sense that I would be shut down by her, being that she's basically made to counter robots. It's a massive swarm faction that she's literally designed to stop having that massive mega swarm effect on, and that's when I was viciously ganged up on in one game, was where Eliza took a large part of that, and I've seen her firsthand do a great deal of combo breaking problems, and she is against my play style. She's particularly disruptive because I'm of the Musketeers kind of play style where you'll chain together an enormous play with 13 cards or something ridiculous and try and play a real big base breaking boom play. And she does massively counter that. But as we've said numerous times, and again in the last video, there's not as many occasions where that's actually the case. And while that might counter some of my play styles, it's not the only play style we've got. It's not the only one that we kind of go for. And it's less frequently than everybody or Mark would have you believe. So for me, it's Time Walk, and that's purely not because Eliza's a bad card, because I don't think it is. I think it's a good card, and it certainly deserves to be here. But I think a free turn every turn, an extra free turn, and the fact that it doesn't go discard, it goes back into your deck. Which, if you're close to bottom of the deck, you're going to end up cycling that quite quickly, and if you can time it well enough, you'll get. Well, you should get at least two Time Walks out, and if you're lucky enough, you might even get 3. So definitely Time Walk for me.
Hang on, I'm just getting a call. David? Yeah, David wants Eliza. He wants Eliza in as well, so we're going to be tying this one up.
I think you should check your phone again. You should check your phone again.
Play from a desperate man.
I mean, this one was really difficult for me, and
I'm sure. What did the community say? Because I'm sure you just said whatever the community said.
It's the difference between a card that's consistently pretty much always good. So like 99% of the times, Time Walk will be a good play against a card that, let's say, 25% of the time it does nothing. It's just a power 5. 25% of the time it stops 1 or 2 plays. 25% of the time it stops a fair few plays, and then 25% of the times it just straight up wins you the game. And it's the variability of Eliza. So
me and Tank both disagree with the last 25% of straight up winning the game.
Well, you can just count any robot pairing, basically. That's the classic. That's the classic go-to.
Luke's a mathematician. I'm a physicist. I'm pretty sure we know how statistics work, mate. Those numbers.
25% of the time, that worked every time. So
Eliza Panther.
But for me, it's it pains me to say it, but it's probably Time Walk for this pairing. And that's just,
he's done no dirty.
And that's just because the floor for Time Walk is so high, and the ceilings, it's not, the ceiling and the floor, there isn't much difference between the two. Whereas Eliza, the floor is lower, but the ceiling's much, much higher. So
I have to ask Luke, what way did the community go? Because that worried him a little bit.
Feels like a last-minute switch, this to me.
I'm in no way influenced by the community. I just think I can't. It's like, Lee with There Goes Tokyo. I can't. I just can't be so attached to it that it's clouding my vision for other things. And
this is the most suspicious thing I've ever heard in my life.
No, it's true. I think Eliza is amazing, but as I say, it's.
Yeah, just the community doesn't. So, and you don't want to lose that public vote.
So. As I say, it's one of those things where 25. Let's put it this way: 25% of the time, it's better than Time Walk. 75% of the time, it's not better than Time Walk.
Oh,
I'll just take Time Walk in that situation.
Time, it might be better than Time Walk. 1%. Also, There Goes Tokyo is the best card on this game, and you're all wrong. So, just as an aside.
Okay. It's got real spicy real early, this one. Well, I might as well chuck Body Shop back in there. Why not? Body Shop's the best card in the game.
No, we're getting rid of all the cards that we like. Our pet favourite cards.
Just put our mind at ease, mate, and tell us what way the community voted on that one.
Yeah,
which way do you think the community voted then?
Before we decide each pair, I'd like to hear the community vote to see if that changes my decision.
Well, we've all decided Time Walk, haven't we?
Oh yeah, it was a 3-way. It was a 3-way. It's fine. Yeah, fine. If it's a 3-way. It's 69 now.
Oh, mate, you have been absolutely stressed out. You've been absolutely stressed out.
I'm not fixed to certain cards apart from Invader. Everything else is kind of fair game for me. But I think I'm certainly the biggest Eliza fan on the panel show. But
smell something, Luke.
Even I will admit that Time Walk is the better card.
I knew you live out in the country, Mark, but I didn't realise you kept cows.
All right, let's all play nice again now. We've achieved what we wanted. We all wanted to achieve.
Yeah, that's true.
Eliza's knocked out. We can all have some fun now.
I think Eliza is a very credible top 8 card. A very credible top 8 card.
It got further than There Goes Tokyo, and frankly, that's embarrassing. You should be ashamed of yourself, Mark.
Well, any card that makes the final 16.
They both got further than Body Shop, so you
guys
should
that's fair, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
That says nothing.
Should we flip the order on this one? I'll start, and we'll go down to Luke.
By all means.
So for me, I think this one's Yokozuna. And the reason that Yokozuna pips it for me is just because of how counterable Eternal Hero is. And Luke mentioned it in the worst cards in Smash Up list, but there's lots of factions have one card that will say destroy an action played on a base or on a minion. So that's obviously one way of getting rid of it. There's quite a proliferation of those sort of cards, but then I think Lee mentioned it last time we were talking about it, where you can return the minion to hand, and Eternal Hero will go. And there's other ways to get rid of Eternal Hero. And I think if you can make Eternal Hero stick, it's better than Yokozuna. But there's lots of ways Eternal Hero won't stick. Worst case scenario, it gets stolen. Someone actually steals Eternal Hero or steals the minion that it's on, and that's a pretty devastating situation for you. So for me, it comes down to how easily it's countered, and I think Eternal Hero has gone as far as it can go. Really, it's not a sticky card. Whereas Yokozuna, we talked about it. extensively over the last video and the video it won, it just screams value. It's in a sense got 4 abilities for a regular king minion, which is just incredible value. So it's just consistently good. It's a similar situation to Time Walk, where its floor is very, very high and its ceiling's not much further away from the floor, so it sits in quite a narrow power range, which is always high. So for me, it's Yokozuna all day, every day on this one.
Yeah. I struggle with this pairing because I feel like Yokozuna has been exposed a little bit, and I feel like it's a lot more substance than actual quality. Yeah, all right, it's got 4 talents, but which of those 4 talents do you actually really want? The 6 power is very nice. Okay, so we'll kind of ignore the 6 power for now, but the 6 power is very nice. And I think you're absolutely right in terms of your argument. It's more sticky. And I think it's going to win this pair up because I think I'm probably going to vote Yokozuna as well. But I don't think it's a better card. I think Eternal Hero is the better card. If I was asked to use one of these 2 cards, the one that I would want to use is Eternal Hero to keep the card that I would actually want to keep around longer. Because what Eternal Hero does on the face of it, even though Yokozuna does 4 things technically, Mark, and you keep saying 4 things like this extra +1 power is an extra thing, so we'll go with that.
It's +1. It does effectively say +1 power, doesn't it?
So even though Yokozuna technically does 4 things, it can only actually ever do 2 things all the time and then 1 extra thing per turn. But it's good, and the things that it does are okay. I mean, I don't really care. You cannot move minions. All right, yeah, fair enough. That's a bit of a nothing talent. We've talked about how movement's about the weakest skill within this game. Draw a card is really nice. You're pretty much going to be using that more often than not. So a little bit of card draw and the extra 1 power is fine. Makes it a bit harder to get rid of. So it's stickier, but Eternal Hero is the better card. You get to keep its recursion. It is the ultimate recursion card. And we're looking for the best card. So yeah, I guess we could say that it's possible to destroy the card that's attached to Eternal Hero. Yeah, you could say that it's going to get picked up. But the best card in this pairing for me is Eternal Hero. So I've changed my own mind. I'm going for Eternal Hero. It's the best card. It's the best card in this pairing.
I loved watching that. I love watching that. I think you were initially swayed by Mark's argument, which was quite good. And then you realise the truth about halfway through that Eternal Hero is better.
Eternal Hero is the better card.
Definitely. Yokozuna is the jack of all trades, and Eternal Hero is the master. That is it.
Definitely.
He does a lot of okay things, and I'd rather have one fantastic thing than a lot of okay things. And okay, there are probably slightly more ways to remove Eternal Hero from the game than there are Yokozuna, but there are cards that you can put on Yokozuna to cancel all its abilities. There are cards that can reduce power. That there are ways around it. You could score the base and it's gone. You can't score the base and it's gone to Eternal Hero. It just doesn't. It doesn't exist. So some of the counters to Yokozuna aren't counters to Eternal Hero, and vice versa. I think the card draw's okay, but there are play on base actions that let you draw a card every turn, and there are other ways to draw cards. It's nice, but from a king minion, I either want an engine to power my minions, or I want to keep my king minion out there as long as possible. And Eternal Hero is the best way to do that, or at least one of the best ways, if not the best way. So it's easy for me, this Eternal Hero. Not taking anything away from Yokozuna, it's a great card. It does a lot of things, but every time it may as well say draw a card. If you're using the other ability, the moving a player's minion, all you're really gaining is that you might stay on the base an extra turn or so. But if you move their minions off that base to keep him around, it just means you can draw a card later. It just means you might be able to draw cards for a bit longer. I mean, that's all it really gains you, moving them off the base. Okay, you can put them on disadvantages bases to score and ninja bases, or move them off to bases they don't want to be on. But after a while, they might just not play on your base, and then it just becomes a draw a card every turn. So it could very easily just become 6 power, draw a card.
And there
which is fine.
A handful of scenarios where actually that's fine. Yeah, and I know Bear Cavalry, where you've done me over in the past with a few different things that Bear Cavalry does, where Yokozuna would kind of hard counter that, and that is quite nice. But it's such an infrequent use of that particular ongoing that actually, to me, it does make it relevant. I think you captioned it beautifully with Yokozuna really is the jack of a few trades. It's not even a jack of all trades. It's average jack.
It's the jack of the most trades you can have in Smash Up, I think.
Yeah,
Four trades.
But they're all trades. It's like they're all trades you don't want. They're all trades that no one does anymore. Like, oh yeah, no, don't move my minions. Oh no, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'll take the thing that is gonna keep my big boy around all the time. Yeah, give me Eternal Hero all the time.
I think there are a few things to pick up on with that. I think starting with the ongoing, your minions can't be moved by the players. I mean, you mentioned it again last time, Luke, in the worst cards one. That there are a lot of cards in Smash Up which just say move a minion to another base, or move one of your minions and one of their minions to another base. There's quite a few cards. It's not, while the ongoing stops certain factions like Bear Cavalry and Felicia Day and Tornadoes, there aren't that many that will completely stonewall. But there are quite a lot of factions that just have the odd card, which allow them to move stuff around. So it can be a little bit disruptive to most factions.
I am looking at this, and I cannot believe that Dragon Warrior was beaten by Yokozuna. I'm genuinely offended that Dragon Warrior didn't make it over Yokozuna.
There's two more as well. I think you're underestimating how good card draw is. Like, card draw is the fundamentals of any, it's the fundamentals of Smash Up, basically. The faster you draw through your deck, the more likely you are to win. So the better
fine. No, I do accept
Yokozuna is
card draw is important.
It's probably the most important thing, I think, in a game like Smash Up.
And then
the third thing as well is that
you're undoing your Invader argument for later. Then, if
sorry, yes, immediately gaining a VP is the most important thing. And then the third thing I think is just Eternal Hero is quite slow value. So okay,
it depends how good your King Minion is.
Well, that's true, but it also depends on how quick it goes to the discard pile, and if it's sticky on a base for a while, then Eternal Hero. What I'm trying to say is, Eternal Hero, you don't get value from it unless it's Felicia Day Eternal Hero combo. You don't get immediate value from Eternal Hero. You have to sit and wait for a while. And the longer Eternal Hero is in play, the more at risk it is from players drawing into that.
What about Doppelganger Eternal Hero?
Well, Doppelganger, again, you have to wait till the base breaks, though, don't you? It doesn't just destroy itself. It only does that when the base scores. So it could, if you play Doppelganger early, you could still be sitting there for a while. So unless you're playing it the turn you play your King Minion to break a base, which I don't think you want to be doing with a lot of King Minions, unless it's the Felicia Day combo wombo.
Yeah, but why would
quite slow.
Why would you not want to do that? You get to use your King Minion for the fact that it's the King Minion. You get a good effect. You get a high power drop.
But most King Minions aren't they're not like play immediate abilities. It's like Hair Doctor and Odysseus and stuff like that. Most of them are engines that you want to keep in play.
But you can keep it in play. That's what Eternal Hero is going to do. So you can drop 5 power on a base, potentially win a base with it, get it straight back, and you've still got it. You've not lost anything.
What I'm saying is I suppose you're unlikely to do that. The reason you're using the King Minion in that situation is to keep it in play for as long as you possibly can, not just to immediately cash in.
Eternal Hero King Rex for a win.
Eternal Hero King Rex for a win would be all right, but what I'm saying is, in most situations, it's not a instant value card. It's a delayed, slow value card. Whereas Yokozuna is just straight in there, draw a card.
Straight in there, slowly drawing a card every turn.
Yeah,
is that what
one a turn. Apparently, you draw the whole deck in one turn.
After two turns, it's half the time work.
You have to remember that Mark is very much trying to use his argument to win and using his same argument to also get us to lose. So Yokozuna's fast play, right? Is that what you're telling me?
Yokozuna's more immediate payoff than Eternal Hero is.
Yeah, because
the immediate payoff on Yokozuna is draw a card.
I tell you what, nobody moves any of your minions when you play them down yourself. So your minions cannot be moved by other players' cards is the only thing that it does immediately.
You can use the talent straight away.
Card.
The talent,
the immediate value
on the talent might be incredible value. No, the moving other player's minion might be incredible value.
And I'm not taking it away from it. It is a useful opportunity to be able to do that. But Eternal Hero is better, and I can't even believe that you're still trying to argue that that's not the case.
No, Yokozuna's the better
What,
card.
what did,
I
what
don't
did
disagree
the-
that Eternal Hero is very good, but I just think in this situation it doesn't beat Yokozuna. It's the same.
Okay.
It's the same thing
Well-
with Eliza and Time Warp for me. Is would I rather have a card that's good all the time or a card that's excellent some of the time? And I'd rather have the card that's good all the time.
That's not the best card in Smash Up, is it?
I certainly think it deserves to go through.
So, what did the audience say?
Yeah, well, what do you think how do you think they voted? This will be
I
interesting.
think they voted the same as you because that's the way you're voting these
Yeah,
days.
I think they voted Yoko. Oh, actually, let's think. He's trying really hard to convince us to vote Yokozuna. I think they voted Eternal Hero.
You think I'm going for the double bluff?
I
He's trying
think
to double
Eternal
bluff us.
Hero is the obvious choice, but
Eternal
Well,
Hero is the best card. The best card out of this two.
You want to see it?
yeah,
Yeah.
please.
It was a dead heat.
Ah.
It was literally a dead heat.
Excellent.
Oh man!
Oh, congratulations, Eternal Hero. You are going through, my friend.
Wow, that is impressive. That is
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, I could see it was close all the way through, and then I could see it very, the gap was closing, and then eventually the last one came in and it tied it up. So
Nice.
yeah, so we putting Yokozuna through then. Have I convinced you?
No.
No.
You're both set on Eternal Hero.
Oh, it's better.
Yes.
It's definitely better.
Well,
I
I'd be
get what
interested to
I get
see-
what you're saying. I like Yokozuna, but How
Yokozuna
can
shouldn't
you-
have got this far. Dragon Warrior's better. Dragon
Yes.
Warrior would beat Eternal Hero. So
Yokozuna,
look
when
at
you
how
immediately
many-
play it though, is the equivalent of half a time walk, and then it gets better than time walk the longer the game goes on.
don't give me Time Walk as the reason for why
does
Yokozuna. should go for it.
Yokozuna say
It just-
play an extra minion and play an extra? It doesn't say either of those things. It just
No,
says
but what you
draw.
got to remember though is time walk gives you an extra action. But
No,
the extra
stop
action
trying
you
to twist
could have
it to
had
suit your
anyway. So
agenda. It's
If
lost.
you go,
Move on.
if you go down that road, it'll just lose to Time Walk in the next round anyway, so it's irrelevant.
no,
Do you know
because I
what's better
think
than half a time walk? A whole time walk. mate.
yeah.
half a time walk the turn you play it is better than time walk the longer it goes on.
I think if you look at this
That's-
board, how many minions are on it versus how many actions are on it, Eternal Hero lets you keep those minions around.
I think this is a bit of an injustice for Yokozuna.
I,
And
I
the
think
community
I
down
got-
there
I
will
think
agree
He
with me.
got too far anyway. He got too far. He shouldn't have got as far as he got. Dragon
I
Warrior is
think
the better card.
I think it's impressive that the community was so split on it 50-50. And so literally it's 51 to 52 votes in this group if you add our votes on top.
I wonder how David would have voted then, because imagine if he tied it up and we would have had to have convinced someone to change sides.
Yeah, but
That would have
me and
been-
Luke are two of the most stubborn people in the whole universe. So
Yeah.
Well, I'm not changing from Yokozuna, so it would have been
there
down
you
to
go.
who
So
can convince
we
David.
I just logged off.
We'd have to take it to a second round of polling just for that pairing.
I do like that we've got the best action in the game versus the best minion in the game.
Yeah, in the final.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
interesting.
That is poetic.
I don't know. I think it would have been nice to see Yokozuna go through there, but
Oh Jesus
Well,
Christ! It's
We'll
dead.
leave that.
Will you just leave it alone? It's gone.
Well, Mark, it would be nice to see Body Shop go through here, but here we
yeah,
are.
but I'm talking about realistic cards that made it through to the final. Not any of the
Look,
stuff
it
that didn't
should
even make the
not.
short
It should
list.
never have beaten. It shouldn't have beaten Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior is going back to that argument, Luke, and I'm annoyed at it. Well, we actually both of us voted Dragon Warrior last
Yeah,
week.
we
didn't
agreed, Dragon Warrior. Yeah.
But both of us said the same thing. It is the jack of all trades, and it's a great card. I don't let me take anything away from Yokozuna. It's such a fantastic card, but it doesn't do anything amazingly, or anything that's really valuable amazingly. It does lots of useful things well, but it doesn't do anything amazingly.
Hmm.
You can hum all you like. You know it, right?
Come on, let's leave that one behind.
All right,
We've got
we'll
real,
go to-
real big boy fight here.
we'll go to the next meeting because we've only got a couple of minutes left on this.
Okay.
I'll see you in a second. Right, so we're back and we're on the right side now. So Great Ryram up against Valkyrie.
Which side
Oh,
was
yeah, I
everyone
forgot we had
saying
that
was
discussion.
the good side, the right side?
I think people
Yeah.
are saying the right side.
Yeah.
But I think they're both good sides. I mean, I don't see the distinction really that one side is better than the other.
There are no bad cards, but there is definitely a stronger side, and the right side, in my opinion, is definitely stronger. Apart from Dragon
Really?
Warrior, which was taken out very early, but
You mean, are you talking about overall, or are you talking about the semi-finals? Or the
overall,
quarterfinals, sorry.
overall, I think the stronger cards are on the right. Apart from Dragon Warrior, which was actually my favorite to win this tournament.
I'd say if you were ranking them bottom to top, Chicken Soup, Solo Shout, Overgrowth would probably be named the bottom of my list. So yeah, maybe the left side has slightly weaker cards, but I think they're both pretty good.
Eliza as well. Eliza's at the bottom of the list.
I made it through to the quarterfinals, almost made it to the semis. But
Weak pairings, mate. Weak pairings.
Looked its way through.
Yeah, well, it's what it does anyway, isn't it? It's just a lucky card.
Right. So Great Worm and Valkyrie. Who wants to go on, Lee? You didn't kick us off on either of the previous two. You could.
Yeah. Okay. I think for my personal choice, this is the hardest pairing for me to decide. I know some people are really going to struggle with the whole Invader and Felicity debate, which is coming. But for me personally, I think this is the hardest one. There's two absolutely incredible King minions head to head in this one, and both. I was really disappointed making the last video because a lot of my fave picks didn't make it through to this round. Great Worm was a pick that I didn't make, but one that I don't necessarily. I'm only sad that it beat There Goes Tokyo, which I think is like I say, is probably my favorite card in the game. So I was sad that didn't go through, but I don't think that it was an unjust victory. Valkyrie as well was the other one that was a bit contentious in terms of, I know that the public thought that Professor, and I know we had a bit of discussion last week about Professor of Valkyrie, didn't we, where we were talking about perhaps our lack of understanding or lack of experience rather with Madness was maybe a little exposed with that. But I still do think that these two cards both deserve to be here and both deserve to be in this discussion. None of those statements that I've just made are helping in any way to be able to make my mind up as to which of these two cards that I'm going to fall down on. This is about as close to a 50-50 as we've got. And I think I've said stuff like that in the past, but I genuinely mean it in this case. My initial gut reaction wants to go with Valkyrie. And that's just purely my initial gut reaction. There's no justification as to why. There's no reason as to why I think it's better. I just think we need to talk through why these cards are both great. And I think I'll fall down on one side or the other at some point. And I think if I am going to change my mind on anything, it's going to be on this pairing as we sort of flip-flop back and forwards. Just looking on face value, great Worm. Are we going with Worm or Wyram? What are we saying? Going with Worm?
We're Ram.
We know it's not Wyram.
Great
Worm.
Worm.
To be annoying.
Great Worm on what it does, on what it delivers. It's in terms of the things that I love about it, it massively disrupts everybody's play. No one wants to play on the base that Great Worm's on. It massively slows down the pace of the game, which for some reason Luke likes, even though he claims he doesn't like slowing down the pace of the game. And it controls VP. And as we're going to talk about later, I'm pretty sure VP is going to be the largest part of our discussion as we go through with this. So being able to hamstring other players as strongly as it does is one of the reasons why it's here. It's also a power 5. It's also really easy to play. It's not necessarily one that you want around for a long time, which is a nice use of a king minion. A lot of the times you've heard us talk about the fact that you want to keep the king minion around for a long time whilst you build up its power, and things like Herr Doctor, for example, where you want to sort of keep it around for as long as physically possible, where you're building things up. Great Worm is a play and sort of almost ignore kind of card. You want to play it to use it rather than play it to build on it, which is actually quite nice as far as king minions go. Nice little target for Eternal Hero, as we were talking about various different things, so you can keep getting it back. It can keep being disruptive. On the flip side, another amazing target for Eternal Hero is Valkyrie. The simple fact, and I've seen this work in a few different instances, where you're able to take another player's best minion and play it as your own minion, not only for the talent purposes or for the specific purposes of the actual minion, but you also get to play the fact that it's that wonderful card, usually a power 5 that it is that you're going to take that kind of recursion from somebody else's deck. That's a massive amount of manipulation. So you've got two great cards here that do two things really, really well. And this is flipping back to the last argument we were making with the Yokozuna argument. This is my problem with Yokozuna, is that of all the talents that he's got, and of which he has many, as we've discussed, none of them are really blowing my skirt up, whereas both Great Worm and Valkyrie are both fantastic cards in their own right, and I would want either of them in my deck. So that hasn't helped me at all in terms of which one it is that I think is the best, but it's certainly got us started, at least for discussion purposes.
It's got to be a no-brainer for you, doesn't it? Because if Great Worm is the best card, then surely Valkyrie is better than Great Worm, because Valkyrie can get you a Great Worm. So Valkyrie must take it in that instance.
I do love that argument. To me, I could fall either way on this. I'm going to need to hear what you guys have said, and perhaps even the community, before I'm able to fully support my final decision. But honestly, either of these cards could be the winners for me, and both. As far as all of the other pairs that we talked about so far, this is by far and away the most deserving pair I think that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I thought I was fairly certain as to which one was going to win this for me, and I still think I possibly am. But I think they both have obviously big advantages and big disadvantages. I think the reason that Great Worm edges it over Valkyrie for me is just simply the timing issue, in that Great Worm, you can play Great Worm at any point. Now the issue with playing Great Worm at any point is if you play Great Worm on the very first turn of the game, then your opponents will just ignore the base that you played Great Worm on, and then you don't really get the value from the ability, which is the whole point of playing Great Worm down. However, the timing issue with Great Worm is it's still faster than Valkyrie, so you can only really play Valkyrie halfway into the game and beyond, and then you're at least guaranteed something really good. They're both global abilities, so Valkyrie can take from anyone's discard pile. Great Worm affects everyone on the base, so they both have that going for them. I think the limitation of Valkyrie is that it's only as good as the people you're playing against, and if if someone's playing Miskatonic University with some Munchkin faction, let's say, there might be nothing very particularly good for you to play. However, the flip side for that is that Valkyrie is a denial card as well, and you can deny your opponent their potentially best card again in the event that they're able to access it. In some games, they won't be able to access it. They won't be able to go through the discard pile again and redraw it, but in others, they might be able to, and that could be a good advantage for Valkyrie. But I think for me, Great Worm has the edge because it's still advancing your game state, so you don't lose anything for playing Great Worm. Other players lose stuff, so it gives you a bigger VP swing on other players. And as we're going to talk about, VP is the be all and end all for smash up. So I think for me, Great Worm has the edge, but it does have its disadvantages in that you can't just straight up play it, because other people will then just ignore that base. And then there are other ways to counter Great Worm as well. So moving yourself off the Great Worm base, moving Great Worm. It'd be great if you had Yokozuna in play and stop Great Worm from being moved, but unfortunately, we've rubbished Yokozuna, so it's vulnerable to that now. But for me, Great Worm has it slightly on the edge.
Yeah, this is more easy for me than it probably is for either of you. Don't get me wrong; these are both great, but Tank touched on it. Lee touched on it in his point there that Great Worm is one of the minions that use their power to break the base. The king minions that use their power to break the base. There's a good number of king minions that you want to just keep on the board, and sometimes their power is a bit against them because they're a bit easier to remove off the field because you can use Eliza's power 5 to help break the base.
That applies to Valkyrie as well, though.
What do you mean?
As in Valkyrie, you use the power to break the base, don't you? Because
you want to play her down on a base you want to break as well. Yeah.
That applies to Valkyrie. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But once she's played down, she's a bit disposable. She's only got her power 5 left after that. what I was meaning with Great Worm is she is one of the he or she. I've assumed it's a she for some reason. Just must be familiar as a big old scary dragon as a she. So,
oh dear.
So it's probably speaking more about my life than anyone else's. So the thing with Great Worm is you do have to time it right because you need that base to break. Otherwise, the power is the ability is irrelevant. So using its power 5 is more useful now than ever because you do need to still break the base. Now, the ability is so detrimental to the other players that it makes them not want to play on the base. So you can use it as a deterrent to not want to play on the base, but more likely you want to break the base and then gain the victory points over them. This game is about efficiency, and there is no greater efficiency, maybe Invader, than Great Worm. You are depriving other people of victory points, which gives you, in theory, by comparison, additional victory points. It does what Invader does in a different way. It's also adding 5 power, which Invader doesn't do. Sorry, I'm probably skipping through to the next round here by comparing it to Invader. But this card to me is as good as Invader. If you've played dragons in any way, play them with zombies, get this card back regularly, get the ruins back regularly, get those cards back regularly, deprive people of victory points. Steampunks is another good one because you can get ruins back. You've got 2 copies and you just keep getting them back and that really can really strangle an opponent, particularly in 2 players. I don't think they can win unless they're playing something unbelievably good. Valkyrie is great, but you do suffer, like Mark says, from you don't have as much choice early game, and depends what your opponent playing against. If they're playing against the Monarch, you're not going to steal the Monarch, are you? So because it's groupie talent is redundant. So
nice for someone else to bash the Monarch for a change.
Once you take it outside of its faction, it does become definitely not as good. It's just a power 5. So for me, this is quite simple. It's Great Worm. I don't like letting other people's choices and other people's decks impact mine, and Valkyrie does that just a little bit too much for me. Fantastic card still, but Great Worm wins for me fairly easily.
Well, that's the thing. I was just thinking. Sorry, I was just thinking then when you were saying about Valkyrie, if you're ever taking a minion to then not replay, so you're taking a minion just to deny your opponent, then it's no different to like destruction or something else, because in their discard pile, unless they're playing zombies or another faction that can access the discard pile, it's gone from them anyway. So Valkyrie to take to deny them is effectively just the same as leaving it in the discard pile. So I think if you're going to use Valkyrie, you always take to play rather than take to deny, unless it's specifically something like zombies.
When the base breaks and you own it, it goes back to their discard pile, doesn't it?
Yeah, it always goes back to the
So in theory,
the owners
in theory, they can get it back at some point if you play it and use it, and in theory, they can reclaim it.
I suppose if you're playing Valkyrie sort of halfway through the game, and then the following turn you play whatever you've taken, the game will probably be over before they get a chance to even see it, circle it back into the deck and redraw it. So you got to, whatever situation, you've got to assume that Valkyrie, they're never seeing that minion again in terms of being able to play it again, unless it's specifically something like zombies or ghosts or something like that, where they can get minions back from the discard pile. I think just on Great Worm, I think its strength lies in 3-player games, because the third place point on bases is usually 1 point. And Great Worm, if you can get a contest where there's 2 people who've committed a couple of minions each, and then you end up winning it and put Great Worm down, the player who's committed a couple of minions for nothing, that's such good tempo and value from Great Worm that it's really strong in 3-player games or 4-player games where you've got the third place points in play. The flip side of that is that it's quite dependent on the bases that come out, I think, as well, because some bases, Great Worm is best on those bases where it's like 3-2-1, 2-2-1, 4-3-2, those sort of bases, rather than like 5-3, 4-2, because the winner is still gaining a a VP advantage over you. You ideally want to play Great Worm where you're getting the same as the winner.
Yeah.
So it's quite base dependent.
Which doesn't always happen because sometimes the bases that come out end up not being that sort of configuration. But yeah, I think you both touched on all of the things that make me decide that Great Worm is the better card of the two. My heart wants to vote for Valkyrie because I think again it falls more into my playstyle. Being able to pick out a card to benefit me, I think, is better for me in the shorter term than Great Worm, which is better for. Well, sorry, it's worse for everyone else by contrast. So I do think that Great Worm is the better card, but I think that probably for me, Valkyrie is the better card, as in terms of how I play and how I would use it. I would feel better with a Valkyrie in my deck than a Great Worm, but I think the better card out of the two is Great Worm.
Valkyrie is certainly the funner card. When you play Valkyrie, you go, all right, pass me your discard powers, and then you're looking through and everyone's smiling like what you're going to take, all that stuff. So Valkyrie is definitely the funner card to play. Great Worm's often just kind of met with a big sigh as to why are you doing this to the base.
Which way did the community go on this one?
Which way did you think the community went on this one?
I think Great Worm.
I think Great Worm. Yeah,
it was very close.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that probably reflects the two cards fairly well.
Yeah.
Almost coming down to personal preference a little bit in that sense.
And they're both great factions as well. Dragons and Vikings, I think, are both fantastic factions. So I don't think there's much to compare them on that front. It just comes down to, as you say, which do you particularly prefer and play styles. Talking about which do you prefer and play styles, we've got the big guns. What everyone was tipping to be the sort of Tyson versus Joshua Saudi Arabia fight. This is the heavyweight slugging match.
It is a tough one, this one, isn't it?
Mm.
I know my answer with some conviction now, I think.
Invader.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has to be, doesn't it? But I feel so dirty though.
Nobody's happy about it. But
it annoys me because we were talking about this just before while we were waiting for Mark to rejoin us for after rendering the video and stuff. But we were talking about this, and I think they've realized the mistake they made with Invader. They've tried to print a few cards, or rather they have printed a few cards since Invader that are a play on gain 1 VP, but they require a specific or a very specific set of criteria that are usually quite awkward to fulfill, which is proven in the fact that none of the other cards that have basically tried to copy Invader or have made it to this tournament, or even in the discussions that we were having. Most recently, I think the Munchkin one had a couple of those examples in like Thieves and in Dwarves, I believe it was, where there's a scenario where the card on play would be able to give you a VP, but the actual criteria requirement for it are so very specific that actually it never normally happens. So I think to me that the people that have printed these cards have recognized that Invader's so stupidly overpowered. And haven't gone for any more of those things. On the flip side of things, it's probably remiss of us not to talk about Felicia Day, because it's what a fantastic card this is as well. And talk about, Mark mentioned it very briefly just at the very last bit there. When you play Valkyrie and you ask for someone's discard pile, like, oh yeah, which card are you going to steal? When you play Felicia Day, you get to see everybody's face completely drop when they realize that they've lost every single card that was on the base. And if there's lots of cards out, if someone's trying to multi-base play and trying to set up a big play, Felicia there absolutely creams them. I think it's just a wonderful combo. But I think for me, it comes right back to the very first video we ever made, the discussion where we were talking about how VP is the aim of the game and nothing gets you VP like an Invader. It's got to be Invader.
Just on that, I suppose we talked last week about the worst card in Smash Up, which was Pupox, because it lost you a VP. Taking that logic, the opposite end of the scale must be Invader, because it gains you a VP.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the flip side of that, I think for me
hold that thought though, Mark. I'd like to revisit that particular point in a second when we start talking about the next pairing.
For me, these are the two strongest abilities in the game. So Felicia Day and Invader. The text on cards doesn't get better than this, and it came down. I mentioned last time I had some sort of metrics that I was looking at. I added a couple more metrics for the quarterfinals, and basically, in terms of is the card a build around? So is the card, if you picked this card, would you build your faction around it? And Invader for me had the edge over Felicia Day, because I think Felicia Day is complementary to a faction, but you don't specifically build a faction around that ability, because otherwise you probably never win games. Moving all minions to the base often will net you third or second place, depending on player count, because you're using it to clear, reset the board essentially. Whereas Invader is a build around. Invader is, and Aliens actually more widely, is how you maybe build around it. But Invader is the only card in the game that gives you an alternative win condition. So every other faction in the game has to break bases. Invader feasibly allows you to get to 15 without doing that, without winning any bases in the game. And that's, I think, just so unbelievably strong. To have everybody else playing their own, playing the game, and you play your own game, basically, solitaire. And then the other thing as well, less important, but I just consider sort of faction identity as well, in terms of when you think of the faction, what's the first card you think of? And I think for Geeks, it comes down to coin toss between, do you think of Will Wheaton first, or do you think of Felicia Day first? Whereas when you think of Invaders, you think of Invader. When you think of Princesses, you think of Eliza. When you think of CMOs, who knows what you think of, but you probably, maybe Yokozuna doesn't come to your forefront of your mind. So I think for me, Invader does have a slight edge. But they are the two strongest abilities in the game.
It does anyway, because you said when you think of Invaders, you think of Invader, rather than when you think of Aliens, you think of Invader. So you're just trying to plant that seed for the next round as well.
Already inceptioned itself.
No, he's trying, isn't he? He's trying. It's invaded your brain.
Was that 3 Invaders?
I think so.
You haven't said anything yet, have you?
I feel disgustingly dirty about it, though. I don't want Invader to win.
Do you think this was more convincing than Eliza Time War was?
70% Invader.
62.
Which is probably speaking to the strength of Invader there, because Felicia Day is great.
Yeah.
Fantastic card. It's a fantastic card, but I think it's a card you only ever play once.
Well, of course it is.
No, but as in like Invader, you will play multiple times if you can. That's how you'll build around it. But Felicia Day, I think in every game, you'll never play Felicia Day more than once, because you just need that board reset to then get your game rolling again, basically. I don't think you'd ever want to reset the board twice, or even more times than that, because I think you'll end up being behind too often if you do that play, because eventually you have to play minions. It works so well in Geeks because they have so few minions they can play, and just being able to reset the board helps you then try and get an advantage on another base. Whereas, like, imagine playing robots with Felicia Day. You're playing all these minions down. You can't really play Felicia Day from hand. It's almost like an inhibitor, really. So I think it works well in the faction, but you never play it more than once. I think that's where its weakness really lies. Okay. It's going to be really interesting to see the Great Worm v Invader discussion as to which way we decide to go on that one.
Opposite ends of the spectrum, quite literally.
Okay, then, semi-final number 1. So we've got Time Walk, and we've got Eternal Hero. Now then, where do we go on this? So for me, you guys said,
we go back to the start and we take Dragon Warrior. We go back to the start. We decide that Dragon Warrior is better than any of them, and we put Dragon Warrior through. That's what we do for me.
I think you'll probably know where I'm going on this one, is that if I think Yokozuna is better than Eternal Hero, I certainly think Time Walk is better than Eternal Hero, for all the aforementioned reasons.
I think you also know where I'm going to go, because I love my favourite thing in this game, as everyone knows by now, is keeping cards alive after the base calls. So it's fairly easy for me, Eternal Hero. So it's down to you, Lee. Do you want an extra turn?
Yeah, I'm kind of 50-50. A time walk can win you the game if you play it at the right time with the right scenario. That said, Eternal Hero is potentially great throughout because presumably you're going to get it back again and again and again, and able to get it to a point where you're going to be able to keep the hero that you want in play eternally. And so I am torn when it comes down to this.
Just to, if it helps you, one point that I don't think we've made about Eternal Hero yet is we've talked about all the Power 5 minions where it'd be fantastic to keep them alive and keep them around. If Eternal Hero is safe from being discarded, there's no reason why you can't play it on a minion from the very start of the game, no matter what that minion is, because you are always going to get it back to your hand. So there's a scenario where you could play it on a Power 2 minion early on, get that back, and then you draw into your Power 5, play your Power 5 down, put it on that, and start using it on that. Assuming it is safe from being destroyed or discarded, you might not want to take that risk. But in theory, as soon as you get Eternal Hero, you can start playing it.
I think that's what we talked about in the last round, is that if it's safe, and the issue is that in a 3-player and a 4-player game, you've got more factions in play, so there's more chance that Eternal Hero can be countered.
Yeah.
In 2-player, it's much safer to do that play than it would be in a. I mean, if you know all the factions and what they do, you can know straight off the bat whether it's safe in a 4-player game or safe in a 2-player game. I think for me, as we've mentioned before, a game of Smash Up can vary. It can be quite a quick game, it can be quite a slow game, and if it's a slow game, then Eternal Hero will take it because of how much value you'll get from the game. Whereas if someone plays a Time Walk against you, they've effectively gained 1 extra turn on you, and a game may only be 10 turns long, so they've kind of boosted their game by sort of 10% or whatever it might be. So it's one of those things where if I'm playing you and you've got Eternal Hero in your deck and I've got Time Walk in my deck, I'd probably fancy my chances to win it because my faction will be faster, and the turn that I play Time Walk gives me that little bit of an extra edge over your
Again,
slower,
I think you're using jaded views there. You can't say that your faction will be faster because you've got Time Walk and we've got Eternal Hero unnecessarily. I think
the text on the card makes it faster. Immediately play an extra action, an extra minion, and draw 2 cards. I mean, that is fast.
Right, yes, it is. But then I get to consistently play the best minion over and over again. So I don't need to draw extra cards because I've already got the best card that I'm playing multiple times over and over again.
But again, it's one of those. I mean, we talked about it on several videos. There is a sort of sequencing there in terms of, you have to draw into the minion. Obviously, you want to play it on, and then you have to obviously loop that minion. Whereas Time Walk is just immediate. It's not dependent on anything else, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say there. Whereas,
it's dependent on you having an action. It's dependent on you having an action and a minion that you want to play, as well as another action and another minion that you want to play. Theoretically,
after
you have to draw 2
cards as well. After you've drawn 2 cards as well, though.
Theoretically, you have to draw 4 cards to make Time Walk work as well as Eternal Hero, and it needs 1.
But you start with 5 cards in your opening hand.
Yeah,
so the chances are you'll have at least 2 minions and 2 actions.
You can't say you can't say that the cards that you draw should be in the consideration of what you are playing on that turn. If you play Time Walk on the chances that what you get is drawn, then you're not playing it right. You need to have.
It gives you additional draw. It gives you additional options, though, doesn't it? That's what I'm saying. Is the chances are you'll draw a minion and an action of the 2 cards if your deck is 20-20.
But you probably need to already have a current option in your hand.
You are not playing Time Walk to draw 2 cards. If you are, you're doing it wrong.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it is a fast card.
What you're saying is the best scenario for Time Walk is better than the worst scenario for Eternal Hero. Yeah, of course it is. That's the same for literally any card.
What I'm saying is that the Time Walk is always a good scenario, whereas Eternal Hero it's just slow. It's really, really slow. And I mentioned that in the last round is that it's very sequential.
What this has done is it's reminded me that we're looking for the best card, and I think Eternal Hero is one of the best cards in Smash Up, if not the best card, and therefore my vote goes to Eternal Hero.
Oh, I think you're both so wrong on that.
Oh, that's nice.
So
But
so wrong.
the speed is so. Speed isn't the be all and end all in this. Okay, yeah, it's nice, but there's nothing to say that we're not using an Eternal Hero on your sumo that gets you a card draw every time. It's nothing to say that we're not getting an Archmage and putting it on the Archmage. It depends what you pair it with so heavily.
Time Walk
that-
is only quick if you've got 2 good cards that you want to play.
But that is
You can't
most
say
likely
it's
to be the
good,
case.
It's quick. It's not likely to be the case. You have to get the best out of Time Walk. You need 4 cards.
Standard faction will be 20 minions, 20 actions. So
Right.
it's
But
so
how many
likely
of
that
them are
you'll
good?
have minions and actions. So it doesn't matter. It's
It
all
does
about tempo.
matter.
It's all about tempo. It is all about tempo in the game.
It's not all. It's all about victory points.
With Time Walk, it is.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it's all about victory points. Yeah, fair enough. But
What
as
did
I
the
said,
community say? I think
well, we had to do it slightly differently. Remember, we had to do
yeah.
best card on the left side and best card on the right side.
So we see which one of these two got the most points. Time Walk.
That's
yeah.
why I wanted Time Walk. That's why I wanted Time Walk. Was it?
No, I
For the
do
community.
genuinely think Time Walk. As soon as Yokozuna got knocked out,
Yeah.
Time Walk is the best of the remaining 4.
Ooh, look at that. That must
Remaining
hurt.
3.
Eliza, that must hurt, mate.
All 9 votes are from me as well.
I bet.
Mm.
That is interesting. I get. Listen, Time Walk is not a bad card. It is an amazing card. But my favorite of the 2 would be Eternal Hero. The recursion that you get from that is so special.
It's not about favorite though. It's about best.
Yes, it
If
is.
it's about
I'm
favorite,
voting for
Eliza,
it. It is my favorite.
Eliza would have gone through if it was about
Well,
favorite.
It just
It's
so
not our
happens that,
favourite.
it just so happens that my favorite card in this particular argument is also the best one of the 2. There you go. How about
I want it on record for the people watching that I fundamentally disagreed with this decision.
that? And I also want it on record that Mark just looks at who votes for what, and his favorite. is the one that-
No. Time Walk is
No, mate.
definitely.
Where
I
you
was
put
actually
Eternal Hero?
I was actually
That's the way it goes,
I was
mate.
talking about it then. I strongly disagree with that decision. I'm riding everything on Invader really.
Well, I mean, let's. Can we be perfectly honest?
if
that
it
I
gets to
don't
the
think
final,
anything on the left-hand side, was going to beat any of these 2. I think the winner of this faction is, as far as I'm concerned, is the winner of the game.
So retain my voice of the people count though.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
cheated.
convenient.
So, that makes sense. doesn't it? Big dirty cheater. So, do you want to gain a VP, or do you want to stop everybody else from getting a VP? That seems to be the argument
think
we're making here.
if you look at it like on the face of that, if you look at it just in victory points, gain 1 yourself versus lose everyone else 1, Great Worm should win. But
It doesn't lose everyone else 1, though, does it? Best case,
they don't
people
gain
don't gain
1.
one.
Yeah, they don't gain 1 when they should, which in that sense is like you gaining 1. But the fact is, Invader is easier to play. You can play it multiple times, and it doesn't require a base to score to.
Well, exactly.
to
Yeah,
gain
but
victory point.
that's the key point, isn't it?
But-
That you can win outside
That
of the
is-
base scoring.
That is the key point. And I know the community will vote Invader, and I know you, Mark, will go Invader, and maybe you, Lee. But I prefer Great Worm. I just do. I think the aim of the game, and I think you touched on this, Mark, you're playing your own game over to the side. And that's not how I think this game should be played. It's giving you an alternative win condition, and every other faction is playing a different game where you have to score bases. And I think that is a much better way to play this game. So Invader may be stronger. I'm not really going to go down that route, but I'm going to say that I prefer Great Worm.
It's
You're not voting for the card you prefer. You're voting for the best card, Luke. I believe that.
I'm
was
voting
the-
for whichever card I want.
well,
Thank you.
it's playing your own game is that it's exploiting a broken mechanic basically, because
Yes.
everyone knows the card is the ability is is busted really, and
Yeah.
that's how you can people are just exploiting it really. That's what it comes down to.
Do you know, we know it's broken because whenever we get together, no one ever plays Aliens. We leave it
And
alone
if
because
somebody does go to play Aliens, we go, come on. Come on.
yeah, we do because and rightly so in my opinion, because it is broken. I'm going to vote Alien. I'm going to vote Invader. I don't want to vote Invader, but I'm voting for the best card, and the best card is Invader. And how you can ever say that it isn't is just beyond me. It is by far and away the best card in Smash Up because it's the only one that is its own win condition. It is its own ability to win the game for you. Yeah, all right. It relies on the other cards and stuff around you. And I fully agree with you, Luke. I want to vote for Great Worm because, in my opinion, I'd have more fun playing the Great Worm, and I think I'd have a better outcome playing the Great Worm than I would the. Well, no, that's a lie. I think you'd have got a better outcome when you play the Invader, but you can't. Well, in my opinion, and the reason why I'm voting for Invader is because I can't ignore the fact that right back to the very first episode that we ever filmed, the aim of the game is to score VP, and that card literally does that for you.
Yeah, we saw Masters of Evil with Marvel. I think with Masters of Evil, they tried to make a more balanced alien faction, where the cards have a lot of ways of gaining extra VP, but it's quite difficult to actually meet the conditions of achieving that. So they have 7 or 8 cards that say gain a VP, but it's really quite difficult to do, and you can't realistically do that by itself. Like, you can't win the game just through doing those cards. You have to break bases and try and win bases as well. Whereas this is just it's so kind of, I don't know, undiluted. It's so pure in a sense. It's literally just gain a VP. And as we saw last time, like when we're trying to rationalize when would you ever use Pupox's ability, and we came down to the situation where you would very almost never use Pupox's ability just because a single VP is so precious to you. We came up with like the Hail Mary situation where you can use Pupox to draw into 2 invaders and play 1 invader, and then it's a net +1. But that's such a niche scenario, and that's purely because of Invader. So I think Great Worm is a fantastic king minion, and it's a great complementary partner to Invader. Alien Dragons could be an incredible combination now that I think of it, but denying them VP whilst you play your own game and game VP yourself. But yeah, I think for me it has to be Invader. And just before anyone else mentions this meeting's about to end as well. So before it gets cut off, we'll just go to the next one, and then we'll wrap up on this pairing. Okay, so we're back. And where do we get to? I think we decided C for 1, hadn't we, on Invader?
Yep.
Okay, so
I can't argue with that.
And the pick for Great Worm, I wanted to pick Great Worm, but I'm going for the best card. I have to go Invader. So yeah.
This is how it broke down. So as we suspected from the Invader v Felicia Day matchup, that was the big matchup really. Not many people were gunning for Valkyrie and Great Worm to go through as the winner.
One of the
best fan on the right side anyway.
One of the Great Worm picks is mine, so that's good. I see a couple of Valkyrie fans out there.
Yeah, although when we see the ultimate winner score, it's going to be quite significantly different as well. But we'll get onto that. The winning,
yeah, of course,
is the most interesting. Yeah, when people were given a choice of all the 8 options, what they felt was the best of all the 8. That's some of the most interesting results.
Did we only put 8? Why did we not do all of them? We should have done all of them.
We knocked half of them out early.
We never necessarily gave the public the vote of everything that got knocked out, just to see if everything had its day.
Yeah, it would have been a big question, but although I suppose we did, because they did vote on all the first round pairings, I suppose.
Theoretically, I suppose. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you're right. You're right.
Okay. So the final, and it's.
I don't even know if you need to make these too big.
Action v Minion.
Here we go. There's been a few of these instances where we've got through to the final and there's been a really easy choice, clear winner. The difficulty I've got with this is that it's not necessarily an easy choice because I don't want it to win. But for me, it's a clear winner. You can't fight Invader. It's almost uncounterable. The way that it's used essentially means that it gets clustered away back into your hand before you before anyone has a chance to do anything with it anyway. Played properly, an Invader is unbeatable. So for me, the best card in Smash Up's Invader, and that really hurts me to say. Also, I genuinely don't believe that it is. I don't believe that it's the best card. I actually think that there's better cards in this setup. I think There Goes Tokyo is a better card than Invader. I think Dragon Warrior is a better card than Invader. But I think everything we've got to fight Invader with here, I don't. As amazing as Eternal Hero is, even if you go back to Time Walk, and I know Mark wanted Time Walk to go through, nothing is stacking up to Invader on that left side, apart from perhaps Dragon Warrior.
I think it's interesting you say that, in that I'm inclined to agree that if you think let's say the floor of Invader is 90%, there are cards that are better than Invader in situations. So there are cards that can go above Invader, go up to that 100%. And there are certainly cards that there are cards that create better opportunities than Invader. So although Invader gives you a VP, a card like Overgrowth gives you the opportunity to create a situation where you can get more VP, and a card like, There Goes Tokyo gives you an opportunity to do something much more impactful on the game, which is what it makes it really interesting, is that Invader is certainly what I would say is the best card here. However, a jacked up First Mate, for example, gives you the opportunity to be better than Invader. There are lots of cards that give you the opportunity to be better than Invader, and a lot of cards that, with the right setup and how the game plays out, can be certainly more fun than Invader, certainly a better game experience than Invader. But Invader just kind of is so good from the very, very start. It's so easy to play. It's a card you build around. It's straight up gaining a VP. You can win the game just off Invaders. It's just hard to argue with how good the value from the card is. And even a card like, if we had the choice of these two cards, most of the time I'd take Invader, but there will be some games where, I don't want to play Invader. I want to play Eternal Hero. I want to create a combo where I can break Eternal Hero and cycle my best card and create some, busted Doppelganger or Felicia Day combo, because you do get bored of Invader, but that's just because it is just that good. What more can I say?
I think that on the face of it, if you just compare these two cards, nothing else, Eternal Hero is better. But Invader is so easy to play and so easy to pick up. And it's the replayability of Invader that is its strength. You're not just if this said play game 1 VP and put it in the box, it'd be nowhere near as good as it is, and it might not be up here. It'd still be okay. But that is the only way to make this more balanced than it is.
That's what it should say. It should say that.
Yeah. Or at least put it to the bottom of your deck or something to take it out of play for a bit. But not only do aliens have 100 ways to pick it back up in various different ways, it allows you to just play it down over and over again. Now, Eternal Hero allows you to do that to an extent, because it allows you to gain the play-on effect of really any minion in the game over and over again. But there aren't many better play-on effects than gaining 1 VP. So even in an absolute best-case scenario where your Eternal Hero is playing the best other minion down over and over again, its play-on effect is most likely not going to be as good as game 1 VP. So unfortunately, feeling like the New England Patriots winning the Super Bowl every year for the past however many years, it looks like Invader is my vote as well. As much as I love Eternal Hero and it speaks to everything that I do in this game and everything I enjoy in this game, Invader is broken, and it's so easy to gain 7 victory points, more than that, and there are very few cards in this game that can gain you that many victory points on their own or in that kind of level. So I think it has to go to Invader.
I agree. It's really well said. It's exactly like Mark said earlier on. Invader lets you have a different win condition to everybody else. It lets you play your own game. whilst also playing the game. It's so cheating.
And it's not even. I mean, you mentioned there in the Aliens faction, but if you were, if the exercise of this is to identify the best card and you start with that card, if you started with one invader and you had to build a faction, you would be building around the invader. You wouldn't just be throwing in, a power counter strategy with first mates and stuff like that. You would, if you were starting with invader, the rest of your picks would be centered around how to maximize invader. And when I made like a singleton faction, my all-star faction, my first pick was invader, and I tried to make it a balanced faction. I couldn't abuse invader because of the rules I was doing, but I still tried to maximize the invader as much as I possibly could. So even just taking out the aliens and just starting with this card, if you were starting with this card as the best card, you still just build around it. It's that good.
Can't argue with it.
You can't argue with it.
And even it being 3 power, I know it's in the 4 power slot, but even being 3 power is advantageous. Ship's captain, for example, you can search it and play it immediately. There are effects that return 3 power minions rather than 4 power and things like that. So even being 3 power is usually disadvantageous for a faction to have lower power on their minions, but it's actually a benefit for invader, really. So there we have it.
I can't believe we've been doing this for nearly a year now, and the best card in Smash Up is the first card that won. What a waste of time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Oh dear.
Well, we kept people hooked for the whole time though. 16 weeks for it to go full circle back to Invader.
More than that, we've trebled the number of people that are engaging with the videos and such, and it's been an absolute joy to read comments and stuff from the community. So yeah, please do keep them coming.
So do you want to see?
Decide to do after this?
Do you want to see how the community voted then? What they thought should be the overall winner? Do you think it was Invader?
I think it was Invader.
I think it was Invader. Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And there's one solitary vote down there for Eliza. So thank you to whoever voted for Eliza.
No,
you're the real MVP.
Definitely you.
That was definitely
it wasn't. No, it
definitely
wasn't.
you.
It wasn't. I voted for Invader.
It was definitely you.
No.
Do you know what is quite nice? There's a nice four-way tie with 3
honestly.
votes. Eternal Hero, Yokozuna, Great Worm, and Valkyrie all got 3 votes.
I'm surprised that Valkyrie actually got 3 votes, to be honest. I would probably put Valkyrie as the sort of weakest of the 8, but yeah, so it's clear Invader and Felicia Day were the 2 big winners.
Valkyrie is the weakest of the 8. Look at Yokozuna, Eliza.
Eliza is the weakest of the 8, yeah.
Eliza's the weakest of the 8 by miles. By miles.
Just saying, I didn't actually vote in this one. I remember now.
Yeah.
No, I didn't complete the survey.
Yeah. Me neither.
But had I done, Invader would have been on 16 right now, not 15. But no, I genuinely didn't complete it. But I think it's clear. It's clear to see that it was Invader, Felicia Day, and Time Warp with 3, standout cards for the community responses.
Yeah, fair. Eternal Hero had a good run on the day. It's always going to get championed by me, but it looks like the Felicia Day and Vader semi-final was the true final.
That's how it matched up on the right side as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, but
it's interesting, obviously, that people were voting for the difference between obviously 22 to 15 and 17 to 15. So there was like a core of people who were just backing Felicia Day, but there were some floating Invader voters who went to the other side of to some other picks in terms of the overall winner.
By those things.
I think the reason to not vote Invader is because nobody really wanted to see it win. No one wanted the winner of the first ever video to win the whole thing and be the best card in this game.
Well, especially when none of us really wanted it to win that first game as well. I mean,
no.
Well, yeah, I think it was almost Archmage that knocked it out.
It was, and I tried my best to make Archmage. But the thing is, Archmage probably wouldn't have gone as far as Invader has in this tournament either. So I do think the right card has won, but I am not happy about it in the slightest. And I'll tell you why. I'm an honourable man, and I don't like a cheat. And to me, it just feels like a cheat. And it's as close to cheating as you can get without actually cheating. And it's not like your body shop duplication glitch that lets you double everything up without killing stuff, which is just it's a cheat. It's an absolute cheat. That's the rules. No, it's a cheat.
I think you've hit the nail on the head in that lots of card games have. So Pokemon, when Luke and I used to play, Hearthstone is a game that I play. Lots of card games they sometimes release cards which are unfun and uninteractive, where your opponent can literally do nothing about it. And Invader is the Seismitoad. Stuff like Ticketus now for anyone who's currently following Hearthstone. But Invader is a classic example of that card where you play Invader, you pick it up, and your opponent can do nothing about it. They can't stop you from doing that and from winning the game. The only combination that can stop that would be the Geeks with
Will Wheaton,
control minion,
and the Force of Will.
Yeah, well, they deny it from picking up, or they can take control of Invader the turn you play it. That's like the only time that it can happen.
What about trade from the elves? You could get it, steal it from your opponent's hand.
I roll a trade. And there are, that apart from ways of discarding cards from hand and trading cards from hand, it's very uninteractive and unfun. And I think that's what people hate about Invader, is that it's so it feels really bad for your opponents when you're just going. Basically, you've got a 15 turn count on the game where turn 1 Invader, turn 2 Invader, turn 3 Invader, and that's it. You've got 15 turns to win, and it just feels really unfun. But that's how broken it is.
I strongly dislike that within the game, because to me that's not a game. That's just it's not the reason you play the game, is it? But we know that as a group, which is why we don't play Aliens, because that's removing the fun from the group.
Yeah, or we'll give it to a new player to give them.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And that's how it should be played, in my opinion, anyway. For what that's worth.
And there are ways around it, so they could very easily release factions that I'm surprised there's nothing like this, where they everyone shuffles their hand into a deck and redraws a new hand of 5 sort of thing, where there's more interaction with your opponent's hands and decks. I know they've got stuff like Vikings, which is about stealing, but there's nothing like shuffling in, everyone shuffles in sort of stuff that goes on. So I'm surprised they haven't yet done that. And if they do, that would be a big check on, in the Invader winning strategy. So there we have it. I think Luke and Lee are now incredibly deflated. Having
I am happy. I think that was extremely enjoyable. I managed to get rid of There Goes Tokyo and Eliza. I am riding high, almost as if the body shop injustice never happened. That's how good I'm feeling.
Remember, Body Shop didn't even make it through. So.
Looks like we've all. Turns out we all lost. Then, basically, is what we say.
Yeah, that's why I'm so deflated. Is that clearly I'm always right, and the best 2 cards in Smash Up didn't make it to the end. So
I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the outcome. I'm a big champion of
the right card one. The right card.
I think the right card did win. I think if it was going to go out, it was to Felicia Day.
As much as it hurts, the right card one.
It would have been interesting. Would Felicity Day be Great Winner?
I don't think so.
I like Grey Worm. I have a soft spot for it. Potentially a little bit biased, but
I don't think so. I think I'd have given it to Great Worm over Felicia Day. Again, because it's talking about it's messing with VP, and at the end of the day, that's the core mechanic of the game. And whenever you've got a card that's going to mess with VP, whether it's gaining new one or prevention of gaining for others, I think it has to be up there in contention. And yeah, I know Felicia Day is an amazing disruptive card, but again, it doesn't really benefit you. It impinges everybody else, whereas Great Worm impinges everybody else and it benefits you. And I think that's the distinction for me.
It's interesting. I'm just looking at the 6-day now, and I'm just thinking about if you had one card, like your first pick was Invader, just in terms of the build-around cards, there's only 3 cards on the screen that I think are build-around cards, where if your Invader's your first pick, if Overgrowth is your first pick, and if Dragon Warrior is your first pick, those are 3 cards that you can actually build a faction around, whereas any of the other cards, I think, are all just great cards, but you don't build your faction around them.
I think that's a fair statement. I would be personally choosing either Overgrowth or Dragon Warrior to build around. Again, both of those cards play very strongly into, well, less so Dragon Warrior, because I hadn't really even considered how good it really was until we started talking about it as a standalone in this faction. But I can't wait until we get together, because I am definitely playing Kung Fu Fighters when we get together in a few weeks.
One of you guys will have to bring your set, because unless we play, I don't know. I was going to say I really want to play Geeks with Warriors to do the Felicia Day Eternal Hero combo over and over again.
No, I'm busy that day.
Are there any pairings that you want to play after having done this now?
Kung Fu Fighters with something I've not quite worked out what yet. Dinosaurs. I'm intrigued to see how it works with dinos. Kung Fu fighting dinos is an intriguing concept to me. But definitely Kung Fu Fighters. And I just want to play Killer Plants and Truckers again, because I absolutely love that combo. And Kaiju and something.
I kind of want to play Dragon Aliens now, just off the back of Great Worm and Invaders.
I want to play Dragons and Shapeshifters. Yeah.
I think I'm busy that day too.
I thought you were going to go down the Polynesian Voyages with...
oh yeah, I do want to play that too.
Mad Scientist, weren't you?
Yeah, yes, please. Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. That do.
Okay, so we are finished. We've finally reached the conclusion of what we think the best card in Smash Up is. And I know we didn't include Marvel, but it's quite simply we just don't have... Marvel was released too soon. We don't have any kind of playing experience with it. So maybe we'll do a standalone one for Marvel when we've got a few games under our belts. And there's still
would anything beat Invader? Probably not.
Probably not, no. And there's still the Titan Event Kit Pack. We'll probably do that as a standalone video as well at some point. But yeah, we've finally finished. So thank you for joining us on all of the videos and all the discussions. It's been really great to see what you've had to say in the comments and to get your feedback in both of the surveys as well as to what you thought should have been the winners. Some very interesting results were thrown up there. And yeah, what can I say? It's been an emotional roller coaster. Lots of heated debate, lots of good discussion as well. Some controversial picks, some uncontroversial picks. But ultimately, I think we settled on a worthy champion of Invader. Anything you guys want to say as a wrap up?
Thanks for having us, Mark. It's been good.
No, that's quite all right, and I'm sure we'll be back for some more sort of discussions as well. I've got a few other potential things we could do. I know we're playing obviously in a couple of weeks as well. It would have been really good to be able to kind of film a game, maybe.
Why don't we? I'm sure we can. You can rig some
sort of logistics of it. It would be quite. We need a few camera setups, I think, because I'd like to get
drama shots.
I want to get hand cams. So like
under the table,
yeah, kind of thing in poker where you can see what each person's got, like hand cams down one side of the screen, and then like the main setup. But I think it's just too many cameras. I don't have that sort of setup.
Yeah. Also, you don't want people filming your hand, especially because you see it wander towards that discard pile every now and again and put something back in your main hand.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Really enjoyed it.
See you on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.